Welcome to Anime Breakouts. Iska was an ugly lonely loser who was an overpowered saint disciple wielding the astral sword and fights for an empire that has killed its entire population. 1 year ago he rescued a witch who was imprisoned by the empire and got his rank stripped after being imprisoned for his treason. However, the god of the world offered to free him under the condition that he eliminates the ice calamity witch. And after receiving back his astral swords he demands 3 members Nene, Jean and Miss that he needs in his unit. The group has done a lot of witch suppression missions in the past, but this time it is different as the witch is purebred and has managed to defeat entire armies all by herself. The next day the group goes to a forest near the reactor and have to jump out of their car as they got suddenly attacked by the mages. Jean gets attacked by a fire spell from a mage, but Iska intervenes and cuts through the flames using his astral swords. He then shoots the astral mage, but the bullet is blocked by their wind magic and a bunch of other mages spawn from underground. Vladiska and Jean expected this ambush to happen and asks Nene to help, who launches anti-astral power flares to create a distraction using the chaos. Iska deals with the mages on the right and tells Jin to take care of the left. He moves towards the mage that was casting a huge fireball and leaps into the air to dodge the attack and takes out the mage. A witch who is standing nearby tries to counterattack, but Iska takes care of her before she can use her magic. After all the mages are down, another enemy appears with a golem and attacks the squad. Iska cuts the golem's right arm and tells his squad to leave and let him take care of the enemy alone. He continues to dodge the attacks and gets the best of her, making the woman think he might be a saint disciple. Iska knocks her out of the golem and holds his sword at her neck, but Rin rips her dress and tosses it towards Iska to blind him so she can defeat him in a close-range combat. This manages to dodge her attack and pins her to the ground, but the ice calamity witch Alice appears to rescue Rin and freezes the whole area. Rin warns Alice that Iska's asphalt sword can break through the astral art, but she tells her not to worry as she did a good job installing Iska while she froze up the whole reactor and destroyed it. Realizing that the reactor is destroyed, Iska chases after Alice, and she summons 1,000 ice swords and launches it towards Iska. He tries to dodge and defend himself but gets grazed in multiple locations and does a similar attack himself with the astral sword's power to counter hers. Alice wants Iska to give up, but he can't afford to because he wants to stop this meaningless war. Fearing this causes Alice to get surprised and she retreats to a higher location. Alice doesn't want to stop fighting until she defeats the Empire and unites the world. As she talks about ushering in an era of peace, the ice underneath her feet breaks and she falls, but Iska catches her out of reflex. She panics seeing herself in a man's arms and summons a huge albatross to go away from the forest, but before she leaves she wants Iska to know that he won't get lucky the next time they meet. The rest of the squad arrives and sees the effects caused by the astral art of Alice and thinks that she is truly extraordinary. At her home, Alice ponders the words of Iska wanting to stop this war and wants to go to an opera house in the neutral city to distract herself. Watching the emotional performance makes Alice shed crocodile tears, and Iska, who is sitting behind her, gives her a handkerchief so she can wipe out her tears. However, they were unaware of each other as it was dark, but suddenly the lights turned back on as the performance was over and they were shocked to see each other. The night before he went to the opera house, Iska had trouble sleeping and had a sad look on his face. Miss tries to be there for him as a captain and a friend and wants him to share stuff with her to help him. She takes Iska for a change in scenery and takes him to her room, but she forgot to put her private stuff away and got embarrassed about it. Sitting for a cup of tea, Miss gives Iska a ticket to a romantic theater that happens every year in the neutral city and orders him as a captain to go there. The morning while he was sleeping he receives a dream about his master giving him the swords and telling him never to let go of them as they are the only hope to restore this broken world. After Alice realizes that she just received a handkerchief from Iska, she aggressively blames him for following her and almost starts a fight, but Rin tells her to stop. Since they are in the neutral city, they go outside the opera house to forget about what happened and have the meal they planned to take in an Italian restaurant, but they didn't reserve their table and have to share it with someone. While they were sitting at the table, Iska arrived at their table since he had made a reservation there as it was the closest restaurant to the opera house. Even though they are uncomfortable, they eventually decide to put away their differences and eat together. Alice and Iska's taste in pasta ended up being exactly the same and they ordered the same things. After eating the delicious pasta, Alice goes back to her home and is told by Rin to keep this event to herself as Iska is still an enemy of her country. The next day Iska and his squad train by carrying huge backpacks around their backs under the order of their supervisor Rasiya. She will be giving out the command to the group and is happy to see that the squad is still somewhat active and strong as they were before. Rasiya knows that Iska is having trouble sleeping and gives him a ticket to an art exhibition. Meanwhile, Alice visits her mother Laura to discuss her battle with Iska. Laura was worried about Iska's abilities, as his power were on par with the saint disciple who were the most elite soldiers of the empire, and tells the story of their nation's founder and her younger twin sister to Alice. 100 years ago the founder battled with thousands of soldiers alone and still lives. Her sister was the one that started the royal bloodline and is the ancestor of the purebred, but the empire didn't know that she had a twin sister and rejoiced in their victory when Nebulize passed away. However, the binding on the founder has started to weaken. Since Alice fought with Iska in the forest the next day, Iska and Alice meet each other again, but Alice decides not to go with Iska and wanders around the neutral city alone only to get lost after he had spent some time in the art museum. Iska tries to find Alice as he thinks that she might have gotten lost. Alice accidentally spills out that she is a princess and they can't go to the museum together since they are enemies, but Iska thinks that art has no boundaries and they eventually end up going together. After they were done examining the art, Alice gets some ale for Iska to thank him for showing her the way to the museum. After emptying the bottle, Iska falls asleep and rests his head on Alice and realizes she could do anything to him in this state. Iska brings some ale for his whole squad while they are together for a meeting, and Rishia addresses the squad telling them to come over to the Imperial Senate. At his meeting with the 8 apostles, Iska feels that he has failed since he couldn't protect the reactor, but the mission he was given was to stop Alice. Since he did his job perfectly, his chance of becoming a saint disciple again has increased and he was given a new mission to apprehend the ice calamity, which Iska doesn't want to do that and skips his training with the squad as he needs to go to the neutral city because he feels that Alice would also arrive there. However, Miss doesn't want him to go alone and agrees under the condition that she will go with him. In the morning, Rin has a dossier about Iska and tells Alice that he was one of the most talented swordsmen for the Empire, but after he was promoted he never set foot on the battlefield and was imprisoned because he freed an astral mage from her imprisonment. Fearing this, Alice wants Rin to find out about the astral mage he had freed, but it will take Rin a few days. Lu thinks that her daughter is taking too much interest in the Imperial Swordsman and reminds her of the atrocities the Empire has committed against the astral mages. After her mother goes away, Alice orders Rin to take her to the neutral city tomorrow as she wants to confirm things with Iska herself. On his way to the neutral city with Miss, they witness the huge albatross in the sky yet again. When they meet, Alice feels like they have a connection with each other and introduces herself to Miss. They go outside of the city and Alice asks Cisco's reason about freeing the astral mage. Iska did that because she was only disagrees with it. He wants a peace negotiation to happen between the kingdoms and wants this stupid-ass war to end. However, Alice feels glad to know that someone like Iska lives in the Empire and wants him to serve under her. Fearing this, Rin panics and says that her mother would never accept something like this, but Alice will take care of it somehow. Before Iska could give his reply, the founder popped out of nowhere and raised the whole ground with explosive magic. They barely managed to pull themselves out of harm's way. Iska wonders why she is attacking Alice as she was supposed to be her ally, but the people of Nebulas just call her the founder because she founded their nation. Both him and Alice try to stop the founder, but she blames Alice for joining with the Empire and launches a deadly fire attack that destroys the ground around the vicinity, but Alice is saved by Rin, who gets in front of her and takes the attack head on. Alice cools down Rin's body with her ice magic on Iska, tells Miss to take her to a hospital and tell people to evacuate the area. After Miss takes Rin away, the founders looks at Iska's sword and think maybe they were the reason She awoke from her slumber. The swords belonged to Crosswell, who was Iska's master, but even though he possessed them, Iska wouldn't be able to defeat the founder. According to her, Iska and Alice chase after the founder, who launches a fire dragon towards Iska, but he slices through it using his astral swords, while Alice summons ice pillars to cancel out her other attacks. Seeing an astral mage and an imperial swordsman working together, the founder gets angry and starts to use both ice and earth magic. As well, she turns out to be too strong for the two of them to handle and summons a huge storm that almost swept them away. Since they are in the neutral city, Iska wants Alice to put away their differences aside, as they both have the same end goal, and they move together towards the founder to defeat her. Iska starts to chase after her, dodging her attacks, and Alice makes a stair of ice so he can get close to the founder. Combining their powers, the two defend themselves against her attacks, and Iska manages to defeat the founder by cutting off her wings. After the fight is over, Iska refuses to join Alice but proposes a temporary truce for now, as he is tired. As after fighting the founder, after his battle with the founder, Iska goes to a casino with his squad and almost wins the jackpot, but the slot machines decides to reject him at the last moment, just like my crush did 2 weeks ago. Rishia approached Miss and told her that she would be working under her orders from the next mission, and their training will start next month, so they should enjoy the little free time they have at the casino. The group is worried about what their mission might be, as it will stay a surprise until the next week. Iska wonders what they are doing in a casino, and Miss tells him that she plans to win a jackpot and buy the latest battle tank for her squad, so if the mission turns out to be bad they can safely bail from it. Meanwhile, Rin takes Alice to the same casino, even though she doesn't like gambling and would prefer to be in the neutral city instead. Rin thinks that she still wants to meet with Iska, but she reminds Rin that her intentions are pure and she would fight Iska the next time she sees him. While Iska and Miss are gambling, Alice and Rin pass right by them and go to the slot machines. Instead of gambling, Alice wants to think of a perfect date for the battle between her and Iska and wonders what days would work for him. She treats their battle too much like a date, and Rin reminds her that she is planning to fight Iska and not planning a marriage with him. Alice then uses the slot machine and hits the jackpot on the first try. As the coins keep on dropping and dropping, Rin leaves to get the staff, and people gather around Alice as they are surprised to see her win the jackpot. Lane also happens to be there and thinks that if they had this many coins she would be able to buy the tanker captain wants. Hearing this, Alice gives a bucket full of coins to Nene, as she has no use for them. While Miss was lying on the ground out of despair of losing all her money, Nene arrives like a guardian angel and reveals that a person who won the jackpot decided to share her earnings with her. Iska thinks that she must be a very generous person, and Miss thinks that she is probably a Saudi oil tycoon, but Nene tells them she had blonde hair and was elegant like a princess. Hearing this description, the thoughts of Alice circled around Iska's head, but he just brushed it off. After winning the jackpot and giving it to Nene, Alice goes to a fortune teller and tells her about the boy that is 1 year younger than her that she wants to meet. The fortune teller flips 2 fortune cards and tells Alice that the person she is waiting for is always close by, and they are connected by a strong connection that even fate can't break. After she gets her fortune told, she moves away from the building just before Iska and his squads reach there. Iska wants to go to the fortune teller and receives the same revelation Alice did. Meanwhile, Rissa meets with the 8 apostles to discuss a vortex that appeared nearby. While the squad were sitting together, Risia explains to them about what a vortex is. When the war started decades ago, a drift of astral energy was created that was called the vortex, and it gave the powers to the Grand Witch Nebulous. The Empire can't afford to let them get their hands on this vortex, as it might birth another witch as strong as the founder. Meanwhile, Rin explains to Alice that her sister Sisbel messaged her about a vortex that has appeared in the southwest of their nation at the Mutter Canyon, and the Empire has sent troops towards the location. Alice wasn't made aware of this, and they blame the Zoa family for delaying the report. They think that the Zoa family want the vortex for themselves, as the vortex is created at the location which they administer. So Alice and Rin visit the acting head of the Zoa family, Lord Mask, who sneaks on them with a dagger in his hands. Rub tells Mask that he got close enough, and he appraises her sense of surroundings. Alice is confused by this action, but Mask tells them that his astral power has always been weak, so he carries this weapon out of fear. They ask Mask about the vortex, who tells them that this might not be a vortex, but he has still sent troops over just in case, and the report got late because it took him a while to prepare the documents. The next day Iska and his squad go to the rendezvous point, and they stumble upon Miss's friend Noro. She introduces herself to the squad and says that she has been friends with Miss since they were children. All the troops are then told to line up by the commander of the operation, Nameless, who tells them to look for the vortex before the sovereignty or destroy it if they fail to do so. Lastly, he suggests everyone not to get in his way, as he intends to destroy the astral mages by himself and doesn't want anyone to interrupt him. The team then searches for the vortex, but they can't find anything useful while they are inside the cave. Noro informs Miss that a unit went near while they were searching for the vortex, and they lost communication with 2 other units who were sent to look for them when all the troops were grouped at the base. Nameless orders everyone to continue their work and doesn't issue an order to rescue the Miss soldier. Iska was disgusted by this and wants to question Nameless about his decision, thinking that he would listen to him as he was a saint disciple just like Nameless. But he ignores Iska as he doesn't have the rank anymore to make these demands, so Miss decides to use her authority as a captain and asks Nameless to issue an order to rescue the soldiers. Even after the pleading from Miss, Nameless acted like he doesn't have a mouth as well and doesn't say a single word to both of them. Having learned about the vortex, Alice plans with Rin to go there as she can't let the Zoa family do as they wish with it. Alice visited the vortex where the astral mages are stunned out and was told that the location is off limits, but she kept on going until she reached the vortex, thinking that some trouble has occurred. Mask arrived there as well along with Kissing, but feels assured that it was only Alice and Rin, even though she met her as a child. Kissing doesn't know her relative Alice and hides behind Mask, who wants to defend the vortex by himself. Alice doesn't doubt the power of Kissing but wonder if she was strong enough to go up against the Imperial army alone, but she has powers that could even surpass Alice's in the future. Surveying the signal coming from the vortex, Miss and her squad went to investigate it and learned that the astral mages had infiltrated one of their bases. Considering the possibility that they had kidnapped the missing soldiers, Jin wonders what their next step should be when suddenly their eyes divert to a translucent light coming from the vortex in a valley nearby. Being the first unit to discover the vortex's exact location, Nene thinks that the headquarters will surely give them recognition, but the astral mages have already reached the vortex. Another group arrived at their location soon after, and it is revealed to be Noro and her unit, so Miss immediately gives a horny hug to her, but Noro is even hornier than her and practices BDSM. However, their fun time ended shortly as Noro and her squad are revealed to be astral mages. She squeezed Miss's neck and surges lightning through her body, but Nameless hates the sight of traitors and immediately eliminated her squad with his eyes set on Noro. Next, her subordinate conjured a huge blast to allow Noro to escape, but Nameless ended his life in a flash and threw a dagger toward Noro, who was trying to get to her car. As the knife could hurt Miss, Iska parried the knife and allowed Noro to escape with Miss, but Jean managed to put a tracker on her car before she left, thinking that Iska just lost his mind. Nameless asked if he wanted to go back to prison, but the squad couldn't let their clumsy captain get hurt and wanted to safely rescue her. Nameless agreed to their demands but told them that he would bomb the whole enemy base once he returns to his camp, as the vortex has fallen into the hands of the enemy. Standing in front of the vortex, Alice felt that it was small and could only benefit a few astral mages until its energy gets depleted. Having escaped from Nameless, Noro arrived there as well with Miss, and Alice immediately recognized her from their meeting at the neutral city, but before Miss could say anything, Ring gave her a good old smack in the head and knocked her out. Realizing that Iska was nearby, Alice feels like she had hit a jackpot, as she can fight with Iska again, and immediately goes in search of him with Written. Iska and the rest continued to lurk around the vortex's location but decided to push the rescue, as the first missile was already fired from their base and the next one could also hit in Noro's weird fetishes. Refusing to go down with the fight, Noro attacked Disco with lightning, but he effortlessly deflected all of her attacks with the black astral sword before he could knock her out. Kissing revealed her presence, muttering some goofy words, and immediately puts Iska on guard as she was a strong purebred mage. Arriving at the Imperial Army location, Alice and Rin tried to search for Iska, but he was nowhere to be seen. However, they were met with an unlikely enemy who attacked Alice from the shadows, but Rin blocked the attack and received a cut on her arm. Meanwhile, Kissing attacked Disco with her thorns that she can turn into any shape she desires, but Iska surprised her with his strength and blocked all of her attacks, able to regenerate objects that she catches with her thorns. Kissing used a missile that she had captured earlier and exploded it on Iska with his presence discovered. Nameless deactivated the invisibility of his suit and chases after the two, but Alice was able to block his attack and rains ice swords on him, dodging all the swords elegantly. Nameless returned the favor and threw her sword back at her.